All right, we'll go ahead and we'll get started. It's 5 o'clock. I appreciate everyone who's joined, especially on day two and what's been an early start to the day. I'm sure for all of you, and by 5 o'clock, I'm actually surprised there's as many here as there would be. In terms of the title that we have and talking about, it's certainly about the Marketing 5.0, but 6 months ago when they asked you to submit, probably would have changed my title to more is more of a marketing renaissance. Before I jump into that, I'm Kye Strance. I'm Chief Operating Officer of a company called IQ Media. We're a rapidly growing company in the media intelligence space. And my background is about 20 years as a marketing, PR, Marcom technologist. Have my roots mostly from the Vocus days, spent about 16 years there, working on a lot of the product and the growth, and experienced a really, really good time there in the early days of when we were trying to define media intelligence and analytics and all the other things. Where we are today is looking at really, it's truly a renaissance and a revolution in terms of what's happening within the marketing space. And I know there's many different ways in which people define marketing or marketers, and whether PR is truly marketers or falls into that. But I think that's one of the main things to talk about and discuss today is how we're seeing this convergence. But before we do that, let me just kind of root what's creating a lot of the discussion that's happening today amongst marketers. And much of it is coming from the endpoint that I think we all look at, which is the consumer. It's driving consumer behavior, and what the consumer's behavior in terms of how they're interacting with specific devices and what they do with those devices is something that has to level set everything that we do and everything that we look at from a move forward basis. And what we know is this, is that the amount of time that people are spending watching TV, despite your own beliefs around cord cutters and whether TV is dying, I can assure you it is not. There's still much time spent in the day. The average American spends more than a third of their day watching television. That's a lot of TV, and whether that's paid or earned or whatever it might be, they are sitting in front of the TV and watching a lot of television. Coincidentally, they're also spending a lot of time online with their laptops, and again, whether it's online websites, it's YouTube, it's New York Times, Washington Post website, whatever it might be, they're spending a lot of time doing those two things. And what's come out of that, why they're doing these things, is people are buying products. They're doing research, they're looking at things, looking for more information. They spend, roughly about 80% of those people are using second screen devices, of which then out of that 80%, 30% of the people are engaging by something that they see on TV or online, and they go and do any of these 4 different buckets. Now, there's been a lot of focus in the industry in terms of MarTech and the technology and the products that are out there. There's a lot of data here. This is the social listening, this is Twitter, this is Facebook. I can understand what the consumer's saying, what they're buying, what they do. I can understand a lot of what they're doing coming from online into these mediums and doing these things. This is all very well understood. But one of the main areas is not understood is the television side. What is actually driving the consumer behavior from TV into any of these things? So with that mindset, what we've also seen is with this convergence of disciplines moving forward, and this has been very interesting in the last year, is to understand this consumer behavior, there's a blending now of these different disciplines, and it's what's referred to as Marketing 5.0. This is one of the terms that's been coined around it, and really what it comes down to is the need for what used to be 3 completely separate silos in completely different corners of the office who never communicated together, never worked together, never spoke the same language, are now starting to be required to work together, speak the same language, metrics are in line, all of these things. So the silos are being broken away. And I thought the Forbes magazine quote was fantastic. These different disciplines, they're all melting together. And that's absolutely true out there. But we've been talking about this for 7 years, this convergence of marketing, convergence of PR and marketing. And really there has to be a fundamental thing that has to help drive the behavior. And what that comes down to is where, again, where I really see what's happening is this renaissance, is that technology is finally supporting what the disciplines are. Most people won't change what they do unless the technology, or the devices, or the metrics, or any of the things that are supporting them to do that. So now you have a perfect storm of sorts where you have the disciplines and the technology coming together in this. Here's what's happening. So now it's creating this MarTech landscape. There's tons and tons of companies out here that are trying to solve this problem of the disciplines merging together and the technology merging together, and they're all in different categories and marketing experiences, whether it's marketing experiences or marketing data and operations to middleware to everything that's trying to solve communications, advertising, and marketing to join together. But the one area that's really comes back to again is on the television side of things. Because what marketing and advertising are looking at, and where the majority of all of those companies live, the ecosystem that they're focused on, is everything down in here. Ads serving online, ads serving in video, building of websites. Yeah, it's some new companies that have been coming out of it. The thing is the top forms of marketing, and yes, editorial content in this ecosystem is considered marketing, earned media. So whether it's on TV or online, from a trust perspective, it's very high up in the mix.
Will this be posted on the
Yeah.
PRSA site?
Yep. I'll make this available for everyone. Yep. So what is the number 3 area in that in terms of people trust, and then where they act on it, it only gets negated just a few percentage points compared to other things. But it's right in the main mix, the things that tons and tons of money is dumped into from advertising and marketing. The one area they don't understand is editorial. So advertising, as we've been talking to them and working with them around this, what we're finding out is advertising has a real keen interest on earned media. They understand that there's a lot of trust and a lot of action taken out of it, but they have no control or understanding around it. So they have eyes focused on that area. And that's another area that they're driving technology to be able to help understand that and bring that into their ecosystem, because the consumer likes it. It's what they want and understand. So, yeah. But here's the problem. What we in earned media, and I say we, myself, so being in this space for 20 years, unfortunately we've had this refer to in the technology industry right now, there's this fear of what's called the Great Stagnation. So everyone's looking at this, the problem that we've had is PR in itself, Marcom technology has not evolved. We're still talking about the same things that we did 20 years ago. The way in which we're measuring things 20 years ago is no different today than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And you think about how everybody else in marketing and advertising is measuring, they've evolved hundreds of times more than what PR has. And I put that on us. I put that on us as the technology providers, again, whether it's Cision or Vocus or Critical Mention or TVIs or IQ Media. This isn't about me poking at anyone and saying that one company's deficient while the other one's better. We have largely not done our job in helping advance that. And that's something that we need to do. So this last year, I think one of the areas that really highlighted this for me, and I felt more for the Redskins PR in the scandal that they had around, they meant well. They meant well by saying, hey, there's a lot of people that were interested in our story about a training camp where we had our training camp in Richmond, and the numbers they put out, unfortunately, they said they had, I'm sorry, that's not an M, that's with a B, 7.8 billion unique views on this story. It's a big number. People in PR should pat themselves on the back for a really big number out there. But there's a couple of problems when you look at that, and I apologize again, that's billion, is 40% of the world's 7.2 billion is online. There's only 7.2 billion people in the world, of which only 40% are online. 3.2 billion people. So as a marketer, if someone tells me our reach was 7.8 billion, there's something wrong. There's a smell test here that doesn't really work out, especially because marketers are much more aware of the TAM, their total acquisition markets, and the number of people. They know these things. So if we come in with reports touting these numbers, we're going to get called out. Unfortunately, the media is the one that called them out. So this story ballooned. It went everywhere. A bajillion, cajillion people. Okay. Unfortunately for the Redskins and for one of the tech companies in our space, they got lampooned out there. It was not a good day. Not a good day for PR in general. And then even worse out of it is the same, this is Washington Post, by the way. Daniel Steinberg, unfortunately, got a hold of the numbers. So here's a guy where we as in PR, we look at this and we have these metrics that we use of ad value and impressions or whatever you want to call it. And that's the problem. We don't even have a standardized definition of what it is. But you look at these numbers, here's a guy in print that can go right down the hall and talk to his ad department and say, what would this story have cost us? And they told him exactly what. And it doesn't line up to the fact that the value of the coverage was $1.7 million for a story in Richmond about their summer training camp facility. That $72 million of it was also about the Redskins training camp in addition to that. That there was 7.8 billion people that viewed it. And really what it comes down to, a marketer, and the problem is a marketer could easily look at this and come up with just a rough scenario, not even being in PR, not using these platforms, just by going, and I did this if I didn't have access to all of the data. I did this in Google in about 5 minutes. There's 553 household consumers in Richmond. The national CPM rate for online displays is about $4.68 for cost per thousand. It's about $24.76 for average prime time on TV, 4,000 impressions. And to get front page coverage in the New York Times, color front page, is about $50,000. So what does that come out to based on those households? Online, best case scenarios here. $2,600, $13,000 for TV. Print, I took a CPM rate from the New York Times, applied it to what to a CPM rate of this 553. So again, highly inflated. Best case scenarios, you're looking at $36,000 as an equivalent marketing cost, advertising cost for a story in that market, specifically about the skins in Richmond. Way offline from the rest of these. But here's the slippery slope. When you're talking to a CMO or someone who's in marketing, and you're talking about this is an equivalent cost, the first thing a CMO does is say, the cost of that, if there is an attributed cost to what we did there of $36,000, that should give me an ROI of an absolute minimum of 1.5 times. So therefore, based on all of this activity that you had, if I were Dan Snyder in this instance, I would have said, great, that coverage gave me an additional $54,000 in ticket sales. Slippery slope again. You go in with an ad value of $1.7 million, 1.5 times, that's a really big number. You're claiming a lot of credit to be able to drive revenue when there's really nothing behind that. And that's the problem that we have in the alignment. And the thing is it's not just the Redskins out there. This is a problem that we see across the board.